Hello and welcome to the Times of India. You're watching Global Pulse with me, Neha Khanna. Our big focus on the show tonight. From tech titans to Wall Street power brokers, powerful politicians to royalty, a who's who of powerful men make appearances in the latest and huge trove of documents released by the US Justice Department in connection with its investigations into the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking scandal. All have denied having anything to do with Epstein's sexual abuse of girls and young women. Yet, some of them maintained friendships with Epstein even after news stories made him widely known as an abuser of young girls. None of them have been charged with a crime connected to the investigation. Let's take a look at some of the big names that appear in the Epstein files that are making global headlines. US President Donald Trump is mentioned more than 1,000 times in the 3 million Jeffrey Epstein documents released on Friday. While some of the references are benign, others include newly disclosed unverified sexual assault claims against Trump, as well as fresh details about how some of Epstein's victims described their interactions with him. Most notably, the newly released documents contain a list of unverified assault allegations against Trump compiled by FBI officials last year. There are also FBI notes about a woman who accused Trump of raping her when she was 13 years old, and an FBI interview with one of Epstein's victims who stated that Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, once presented her to Trump at a party. There is no public evidence that any of the allegations against Trump contained in the new documents were deemed credible by the FBI, and the Justice Department has in fact said the allegations against Trump are false. Trump has long denied any wrongdoing related to Epstein or any allegation of sexual misconduct. Commenting on the release of the latest tranche of files, Trump said, "I didn't see it myself, but I was told by some very important people that not only does it absolve me, it's the opposite of what people were hoping for." The new details are a reminder of Trump's decades-long friendship with Epstein, a convicted sex offender and pedophile who died by suicide in 2019, and Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate who's currently in prison for sex trafficking. Let's look at some of the other names in the Epstein files. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the man formerly known as Britain's Prince Andrew, has long been dogged by questions about his relationship with Epstein, including allegations from the late Virginia Giuffre that she was trafficked by Epstein and instructed to have sex with Mountbatten Windsor when she was 17 years old. The former prince has repeatedly denied that it happened, but his brother, King Charles III, stripped him of his royal titles late last year, including the right to be called a prince and the Duke of York. Mountbatten Windsor's name appears at least several hundred times in the latest document release, including in Epstein's private emails. Among the correspondence is an invitation for Epstein to dine at Buckingham Palace. Epstein's offer to introduce Mountbatten Windsor to a 26-year-old Russian woman, and photos that appear to show Mountbatten Windsor kneeling over an unidentified woman lying on the floor. Shockingly, according to the new emails, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor sent photographs of his daughters, Princesses Eugenie and Beatrice, to Jeffrey Epstein. 2 years after claiming he had cut off all contact following the sex offender's 2008 conviction for procuring a minor for prostitution. Then there is Sarah Ferguson. In March of 2011, Sarah Ferguson, then the Duchess of York, made a public apology for letting Jeffrey Epstein pay off some of her debts. Both she and her ex-husband, the former Prince Andrew, had come under tremendous public scrutiny for continuing a friendly relationship with Epstein after he pleaded guilty to soliciting prostitution from an underage girl. Ferguson told London's Evening Standard newspaper she would have nothing ever to do with Jeffrey Epstein ever again. But just 2 months later, she emailed Epstein to say that she was going on Oprah Winfrey's television show and wanted his advice on how she should answer questions about their relationship. Epstein replied, advising her on exactly how she should answer the questions and in the process defend him. The latest tranche of the Jeffrey Epstein files also allege that Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates contracted a sexually transmitted disease after sleeping with Russian women and later sought antibiotics to secretly give to his then-wife, Melinda Gates. The emails at the center of the controversy are dated 18th July 2013 and appear to be draft messages written by Epstein, who also claimed that Bill Gates urged him to delete the emails relating to the alleged incident. Elon Musk, the billionaire Tesla founder, turns up at least a few times in the latest documents, notably in email exchanges in 2012 and 2013, in which he discussed visiting Epstein's infamous Caribbean island compound. But it's not clear if the island visits actually took place. Musk has maintained that he repeatedly turned down the disgraced financier's overtures. Then there is Richard Branson, the billionaire founder of the Virgin Group, a conglomerate, exchanged numerous emails with Epstein. In a 2013 exchange, Branson invited Epstein to his own private Caribbean island. Branson wrote, "Anytime you're in the area, would love to see you, as long as you bring your harem." In another message that year, Branson suggested Epstein rehabilitate his image by convincing Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates to tell the public how Epstein had been a brilliant advisor to him and had more than learned his lessons. His company claims there was no wrongdoing on Branson's part and that any dealings with Epstein were limited to group or business settings more than a decade ago. Former US President Bill Clinton also appears in these files. Just like Trump, Clinton spent time with Epstein more than 2 decades ago, including flying occasionally on his private jet and seeing him at the White House. Clinton also denied any knowledge of Epstein's wrongdoing. Clinton's representatives say the former president broke off relations with Epstein after the first round of criminal charges against him in 2006. The investigative file includes snapshots of Clinton and other famous people that Epstein kept in his home in New York. It also contains messages. Investigators. None of Epstein's victims have publicly accused Clinton of being involved in Epstein's crimes. Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister, and his wife turn up frequently in the documents, showing they stayed in regular contact with Epstein for years, including well after his 2008 guilty plea for sex crimes in Florida. Barak has acknowledged regularly visiting Epstein on his trips to New York and flying on his private plane, but maintains he never observed any inappropriate behavior. Ehud Barak served as Israel's prime minister from 1999 to 2001. Howard Lutnick, Trump's Commerce Secretary, visited Epstein's private island in the Caribbean with his family on at least one occasion, records show. That appears to contradict prior statements he's made, claiming he cut ties with the disgraced financier decades ago. But emails show Lutnick and his wife accepted an invitation to Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands in December 2012 and planned to arrive by yacht with their children. Lutnick also had drinks with Epstein in 2011. Sergey Brin, the billionaire Google co-founder, made plans to meet with Epstein and Maxwell at his townhouse in New York years before he was publicly accused of sexually abusing underage girls. Steve Bannon, the one-time advisor to Trump, exchanged hundreds of friendly texts with Epstein, some sent months before the financier's 2019 arrest and jailhouse suicide. The two discussed politics, travel, and a documentary that Bannon was said to be planning that would help salvage Epstein's reputation. Epstein and Bannon also exchanged gossipy messages about Trump and his politics. Stephen Tisch, the New York Giants co-owner, is mentioned more than 400 times in the files. Correspondence between the two shows Epstein offered to connect Tisch to numerous women over the years. In one 2013 email exchange with the subject line Ukrainian girl, Epstein encouraged Tisch to contact a particular woman whose physical beauty he praised in crude terms. Brett Ratner, the film director who made the recently released Melania Trump documentary, appears in several photographs included in the government's files. One photo shows him with his arms wrapped around the shirtless torso of Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling agent who killed himself in jail in 2022 while awaiting trial on rape charges. Lord Peter Mandelson, a senior British politician and former minister, figures in the emails too. Mandelson's emails and banking records suggest financial transfers from Epstein. The revelations revived scrutiny of his ties, and he resigned from the Labour Party to avoid further embarrassment, but denying knowledge of any wrongdoing. Meera Nair, the acclaimed Indian-born filmmaker and mother of New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, is named in a 2009 email as having attended a party hosted by Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Neither she nor Mamdani has been accused of any crime, but the mention has sparked protests outside the mayor's residence and political backlash in New York. Some of the others who appear in the files are Larry Summers, Bill Clinton's former Secretary of the Treasury and the one-time president of Harvard University; Casey Wasserman, the president of the committee for the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles; and Miroslav Lajčák, a national security advisor to the Slovakian Prime Minister. The latest Epstein files, one of the largest ever made public, has thrust a constellation of powerful names into headlines around the world, from tech billionaires and royals to filmmakers and politicians. While inclusion in the files does not necessarily imply criminal liability, the disclosures are reshaping public discourse about power, accountability, and the lasting effects of Epstein's sprawling network. Survivors and advocates remain critical, demanding deeper transparency and justice, and the legal and political reverberations both in Washington and abroad are far from over.